Hey guys, Joe from Joe Shrimp Shack right here. I'm taking over my ad space because the guys at Aquarium Guys are just pure morons. So if you want to get 15% off your whole entire order, go to joeshrimpshack.com, put in the promo code Aquarium Guys on there, and get 15% off on everything. And remember, ladies, I have cholla wood by the inch.
Also, guys, don't forget about Ohio Fish Rescue. Ohio Fish Rescue just got done doing a lot of fun work bringing fish to Shaq's house. You got to check it out. Go to Ohio Fish Rescue on YouTube, find some great content, like, subscribe, and maybe shoot them a couple of dollars. All right, let's kick that podcast.
Welcome to the Aquarium Guys podcast with your hosts, Jim Colby and Rob Zolson.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Today, finally, after a long-awaited period, we have reached out to Seegers Farms, and we have them sponsoring this particular episode. So, number one, thank you, Seegers Farms. We'll have more information in the podcast notes. But today we have the infamous Dr. Fish, James Coleman. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How's it going?
James Collins. I have to edit that out now. How dare my notes?
You have one name to remember.
I have one name. That's why we're calling you Dr. Fish.
Sure. Howdy, fishy folks.
So, James, you have been working now as head of Seegers Health. Please tell us about your career and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah. I'm the lab manager at Seegers Farms. Been working there for 26 years. That's over half my life. So it's a labor of love for sure. We're the largest wholesaler of tropical fish in the world. I grew up in the industry, learned how to swim in a production pond, graded fish and helped seine ponds when I was a little boy. Pretty wild to see the changes. When we started, we were 100% just a family business. There was less than 20 total employees when we started. We're nearly 200 now.
And just to clarify, you said 26 years, and if there's been a disease, I'm assuming you've seen it. I got to visit Seegers in person a couple of years back, and just the massive amount that you guys ship every day blows my mind. You have multiple UPS semis generally there just filling up depending on the season. It's
Absolutely.
Really impressive. Who better to have on the podcast to answer our fish health, nutrition, and wellness questions? So in preparation for you, James, we have been preparing a Dr. Fish section in our Discord. You can go to aquariumguyspodcast.com at the bottom of the website. You'll find the link for Discord. It's where we do our chat. It's where our whole community's at. And we have one entire sub-thread in here dedicated to asking questions. So we've been saving a lot of good ones, a lot of hilarious ones, and all those in between. So, again, thanks for coming on, Dr. Fish. And I'm your host, Rob Zolson.
I'm Jim Colby, the good-looking one.
And I'm Adam on the Shire.
The smart one.
The sounding so good because he got his computer and internet.
Adam got a new computer. We're pretty
That's
impressed.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Right? He gets a gold star for attendance.
Gold star.
Before we get into the deep dive with Dr. Fish here, you got some news for me, Jimmy?
Do I have some news for you? Not that I'm aware of.
Your life is so boring, Jimmy.
My life sucks. No, I actually I got my shipment in from Seegers Farms last week. They are still shipping UPS. They cannot send a whole lot through the airlines and stuff. So we've talked a lot about how there's not really a shortage of fish, but it's just a shortage of ways to getting them to you. And so during this whole COVID thing, we've all been, struggling to get stuff in. I know you guys are having trouble getting stuff in from the imports. And I know a lot of the locals that raise fish down in Florida have stepped back a little bit because of the COVID deal and stuff. But we're looking forward to having a good fall, good end of summer here with all the good tropical fish that we get out of Seegers Farms.
So, James, do you have any insights on, the trends of how long this is going to last? That's going to be tight to find everything. Are they beginning to order stuff back in quantity? I mean, you guys are at the forefront there at Seegers.
Yeah, we've got a ton of fish in house, but the a lot of the Asian stuff is hard to come by. South American stuff is just horrible right now. Don't really have an update on when those will be reopening. But we are starting to get more and more fish flights opening through Southwest, who we deal a lot with going out. So hopefully that's going to improve the retail end.
Now, do you see people changing? Like a lot of the Florida farms starting to start back up because of the demand. They see that there's going to be a lockdown for a while, or just waiting for borders to open.
Oh, I think it's more of a border issue.
Gotcha. Again, my news this week is I figured out that our hotline that we have for our listeners also allows to do text message.
No kidding.
Right. So we have our number on the bottom of the Aquarium Guys podcast website to call in with your questions, and we'll play them on air. Maybe we'll read them if they're an email. But one gentleman decided to text me, and it popped up on my phone that I came through the site. So said, hey guys, want to know I love the podcast. You've been super helpful. So many aspects of getting into the aquarium hobby as a whole. I've been starting up a couple breeder tanks with a pair of red cobra guppies, blue dream shrimp, which both are breeding, and possibly some autocinclus spawning too. I was wondering if I could offer me some ideas, making sure that all three remain successfully breeding in the same tank if possible. So I answered the question. We went back and forth, and he messaged that, and I got him back a response within a minute. So he was impressed that we got it. So, hey, why not? Until I get too busy, if you guys want to text us directly, we have our number at the bottom of the website, aquariumguyspodcast.com. Shoot us a text message. Maybe you'll be answered directly on the show. But in a tank with shrimp, guppies, and autos, if all of them are breeding, something's going to eat the babies. I mean, guppies will eat baby shrimp when they can, if they're small enough to fit in their mouth. They're not going to get them all. I mean, guppies aren't avid hunters. They're not going to start, going through every nook and cranny, but they're definitely going to lower the population of shrimp. So if your goal is to breed for numbers, do each one of those in separate tanks.
Absolutely.
You're not going to want to have shrimplets getting nommed up by autos, or guppies eating auto babies, or even, baby fry, guppy fry, which have probably the best rate of all three getting nommed by autos.
Num.
The shrimp will probably leave them alone. You won't have an issue there. But if you want to breed them for numbers, separate them. Otherwise, you can breed and just know that they're going to get picked off, and you may only have a couple per batch that live.
We're just here to give you another reason to buy more tanks.
Right, all more tanks.
Do you need reasons to buy more tanks?
Oh, we just need to give people reasons. And we also give you permission to buy more tanks. Don't talk to your spouse. Don't talk to your significant other. Just go ahead and do it. It's just easier to apologize and to get permission.
Yep.
So
Yes,
this week...
Please
go
buy
ahead.
more tanks. Please buy more tanks.
There you go.
There's a flow chart for this I feel like we got to make. Like, I want to do this, buy more tanks. I want to set up this breeding, buy more tanks. It just always goes to buy more tanks.
Buy more tanks.
Buy more tanks. And eventually, set up a fish, basement or room, and then get divorced.
Exactly. And then lose half your stuff and
And then get more tanks.
then buy more tanks. Yeah, exactly.
It's a circle of life.
My ex-wife took half my tanks, just smashed them in the front yard to show me who was boss, and I bought more tanks.
Please tell me that was true.
It is pretty close.
Oh, man.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
Just like your hopes and dreams.
Yes, smashed into smithereens.
She destroyed a lot of your stuff, Jim.
We'll talk about that later.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But no, guys, certainly give us some messages back and forth. We love to have them. And above all else, we have all these messages saved. But Adam, you got any news this week?
Not really. No, I don't think so.
Man, you guys are so boring. I got large clown loaches from a buddy of mine, and they're beautiful sitting right next to you, Jimmy.
Yes, they are. Say, I did see something very interesting. If for those of you who buy the Amazonas magazine, you also get the Amazonas email, and I sent it to Rob, and I know he didn't look at it because
I looked at it.
And let's talk a little bit about the house plants that you can put in your aquarium. Did you read it?
Well, see, Jimmy, I have been starting to collect spider plants, as you see
Yes.
on my filters everywhere. Not because of the magazine, but because I figure that I have these, I need to put them somewhere, and I have too many tanks. So if I'm going to get more tanks, house plants need to go in there somewhere.
That's right.
So it's been working out pretty well. So I decided from our jars podcast in episode 41 to make an aquarium jar. And it was beautiful, right? I put the nice volcanic ash substrate in the bottom. I put a big spider plant in there that was coming out the top. It was a huge spider plant, right? I was getting it ready. Maybe I could put some shrimp in there. And I set it up in my sunroom where it's going to get plenty of light because, again, there's no heat, no light. And the next morning, the entire top was just shaved off, and there's cat vomit on the floor.
Cat vomit.
So check what animals you have in your house. If you have dogs or cats, before you start doing potted plants, to check if it's cat friendly. Luckily enough, spider plants are cat friendly, although puking on the rug I wouldn't call real friendly, but apparently cat friendly is it won't kill them.
It won't kill them. Yeah, they had a great article in there. They'll tell you different plants that you can put and root into your aquariums and stuff. Rob's been doing that over here in a lot of his tanks. It's pretty cool. So check it out. If you go on their email, there's all kinds of different articles that are very noteworthy to be reading. So check out the Amazonas email that came out just recently. And if you don't get it, shame on you.
Yeah, you can get the digital version, and we're not sponsored by them at all. So, Matt, where's our free commission there?
Yeah, the guys from Amazonas have been nothing but great to us. They've had quite a few people on this podcast, and there are going to be more people on this podcast from Amazonas. So it's been a great friendship and a great partnership that we've started with these guys.
Yeah, show them some love, say hi, and here's the thing, right? One of my listeners apparently messaged Matt Peterson that was on the podcast. He's one of the head editors for Amazonas, right? And message in the notes because he was buying every back order of Coral Magazine and said that Rob's from the Aquarium Guys podcast told him he'd get a free year subscription. So you guys are memers out there. I did not say that, but I appreciate the love. Always pick on Matt for us whenever you buy back issues.
Yeah, and if you're going to go for a free subscription, get a 3 year, not a 1 year.
Oh, yeah, 3 years, way better.
3 years.
There you go, 3 year. So don't know where that went. We'll find out, but that was a lot of fun for me getting emails from Matt during the week. All right, well, we should start into our topic. And again, before we kick this off, just want to say a big thank you again to Seegers Farms, who gave us the opportunity to spend this evening with Dr. Fish. And if you guys got questions, again, go to our Discord. I gave the information before. We'll happily do them. Otherwise, we're doing these podcasts live on Monday nights, about 7 o'clock Central, most nights, weather permitting. Jimmy's got a long drive to going across the street to my house. So we'll see if...
I go around. I don't walk through the yards anymore. I take my motorcycle, and it took me about 40 seconds to get over here tonight.
That's a new record.
Yeah.
You should be careful. There's traffic out there.
I drove slow.
Well, again, you'll find more information on Seegers Farms. So if you're a pet store or wholesaler, they have a business license to resell fish. Certainly go to SeegersFarms.com. Thanks to them. So, Dr. Fish, sir, are you ready for your first question?
Absolutely.
First, we got to do some interview questions with you. Number one, what got you into the hobby and doing this, amazing stunt of half of your life dedicated to the aquatic trade?
Just my background, in the industry. This part of Florida is the heart of the tropical fish growing industry in North America still. So it's just something that's been in my blood, and I'm an animal lover.
And for those of you listening, they are located in Tampa, Florida, near Gibsonton, near Big Bend Road.
That's not far away from the Disney worlds.
It's the Disney World for fish geeks.
There you go. The audience demands this question. What fish did you start out with?
Oh, me. I couldn't even tell you my first fish. I've had fish my whole life. So my favorite fish still to this day was a large Jack Dempsey whose name was Jack. Had him for quite a long time. We had to move, and he jumped out of the bucket during moving, and that was pretty brutal. I was a sad little boy, but he's always been my favorite fish.
So he was suicidal, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jack.
So did you name your Jack Dempsey Jack because Jack Dempsey, or because of one of the managers there, Jack?
No, Jack Dempsey for.
All right,
got to clarify that one.
I just want to clarify that. I haven't been in Jack's office for years, but.
So what are you keeping now? Like, what is your personal collection? Since again, you get to be right at the forefunnel of everything new that comes in.
I've recently retired as a hobbyist.
Do you have some tanks for sale?
I have.
Jim's got some recently smashed ones he needs to fix.
No, I've got 4,000 freshwater tanks that I take care of pretty much daily. I'm although I'm the lab manager, I'm pretty hands-on. So I'm personally siphon and feed all the discus for y'all every day.
Essentially, Seagrass is your personal hobby at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
If you want to experiment for something, I'm assuming they'll let you put up a rack and do what you do.
Yes.
All right, so starting down with the questions. So, again, Dr. Fish, and we've been saving these. Now, forgive me, I'm going to have to spell out some of these. We have some deep intellectuals and some really beginner users, so we have a variety of questions. So, number one, what do you suspect to be the most common culprit for HLLE in marine fish, and do you have any tips to stop or reverse it?
They did some good work at Living Seas, Disney in Orlando, and they found that the fines from the activated carbon can really exacerbate that issue. Also, they're not sure why that happens. It's just I think it's so small that it becomes an irritant, basically, just another stressor.
Well, before we go too far, because we got a lot of different listeners listening to this podcast that may have never had marine fish. So explain to us HLLE.
Oh, holding the head and lateral line erosion. So that's a symptom. So the symptoms you'll see with that are big open looking wounds. Normally near the eyes, above the eyes, or near the rostrum, the nose of the fish.
Fine particulates is seeing as exacerbates it.
Correct. Yeah. Fish that don't show signs of it, once they're exposed to tanks that have activated carbon in them, can start to show signs of it. There's no clinical proof of that yet, but it's anecdotal evidence. But that's one thing. Another thing is just water quality in general can really make that breakout. Water quality is number one, and in all of our aquaculture classes. Every aquaculture class taught water quality is always going to be the top priority for healthy fish, no matter what. Heavy metals can also be a factor in HLLE.
Is there any treatment for that works?
No, actually.
I've never found anything.
If you've got activated carbon, you can take it out and see if that works. If you've never tested your water for heavy metals, you can always test it for that. And the one thing, nutrition can improve it. Not necessarily make it go away, but really good nutrition, get their guts healthy. That would be my second thing. My number one thing is always water quality. And my number two thing, feed your fish the best you possibly can. They're pretty resilient critters. They'll pretty much take care of themselves if you can give them those two things.
So it's not necessarily a death sentence when they get the hole in the head, but it definitely is going to be a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not going to be pretty, but it's not necessarily going to kill them. I mean, maybe long term, if it gets really deep, but they'll, a lot of fish aren't going to live that long anyway.
There's been some videos that have tried to treat this in the past. Again, I've never seen, like you guys said, any medications that really quote unquote work. There's like any other like home brew recommendations like, oh, work for me. Well, it could have been just water quality. You do water changes, but I have seen a couple correlations with people doing like vitamin dosing. So they'll take, like their cichlid pellets, soak it in a, fish vitamin supplement. And that seems to, help. But that's just generally trying to improve your overall fish's health. Maybe they're lacking some nutrients in the first place. What's the disease I'm thinking of?
Spironucleus, hexamida, what they used to call hexamida.
Hexamida, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm thinking of. So yeah, I've seen that commonly done as another attempt. But yeah, like you said, it comes down to water quality.
So right back to for also a healthy gut. So I mean, feeding vitamins, get your gut a little bit better. Totally understandable. So
well, that's why
Absolutely.
you had your probiotic yogurt today, didn't you? With your applesauce and pills.
No. I take my pills like anybody else with M&Ms. Mix your pills in with M&Ms is much better.
It's like, which one tastes good? We don't know today. So question number two.
It's better than Skittles. Put it that way. You people are nuts.
So just as a note, right, we have Dr. Fish here. He works for Seagrass Farms, and, he's not going to be recommending any, particular medications. He'll make some suggestions, talk about ones that are out there. But as far as, which brand is better that does the exact same thing, has the same active chemical, that's not what Dr. Fish is here for. But next question is, in reality, API cure is it as effective as people say, and why?
Oh, I will say that my colleagues in the public aquaria really like it. There's no, like I said, there's no documented studies on it yet, but it and other quote unquote holistic treatments are being researched now. So we'll be able to find out if they are actually doing something or if it's more a combination of just taking better care of our fish. Which I think in a lot of cases it could be, but if you have luck with it and you're using it, I would say keep using it.
So a lot of these things that people say API, like General Cure, is they're using stuff that they think is it. Like for instance, like people say Quick Cure or some other ick treatment, and it has methylene blue in it. Generally, that's the activated ingredient that some people are looking for. I was talking with one of these gentlemen before, and I believe that's what it was aimed after. So as far as dealing with stuff like ick, the active ingredient methylene blue is the reason why a lot of those general cures can be so effective. For at least the question that he was trying to answer specifically.
Oh, I got you. For ick in particular, I mean, just formalin is the best treatment, really. And if it's somewhere you can, if you take those fish out, ick is an obligate parasite. If you take those fish out and just leave the tank fallow, the ick die within, I mean, max 36 hours once they're free swimming if they don't find a host. That's the surefire way to always get rid of ick.
Wait, doctor, are you recommending more tanks?
Absolutely. More tanks.
Tanks.
So if you're saying, so if you have a tank full of mollies and they come up with ick, to take the mollies out, put them in a different tank that you just purchased,
attempt to treat,
and then in 36 hours, the ick that was in the other tank should be dead.
It's gone.
It's gone. Well, that's interesting. I never knew that. I've had some pet stores. I wholesale. I've had some people that have, talked about not being able to get rid of ick out of a tank and actually, bleach bombing a tank just to try to, but then you start fresh, trying to put in your bacteria in a bottle type of stuff. And I just never really liked that idea, but to actually remove the fish. Now, will a snail carry ick?
I've never seen a snail carry ick. I can't say that would never happen, but I don't believe so.
I mean, because most people take out their fish, but they'll leave their snails, or what about that Cooley loach living in the gravel that you haven't seen since 1974? That's what drives me insane.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not a simple thing to do, but it is a surefire way.
So, and you said a formaldehyde, or what were you saying that was the best ick?
Yes, formaldehyde. Formalin is the actual technical term. Formalin and the 37%.
Because back when I started in the business 20 some years ago, they were saying use formaldehyde, and I bought 2 gallons of formaldehyde, and I still have 1.98 gallons of formaldehyde. And
you should probably get rid of that shit.
Well, I don't. What do you do with it? It's highly carcinogenic.
Bring it to a veterinarian so he can put a sheep's head for classes.
No, we're not doing that. But formaldehyde will take care of a lot of problems. But there again, is trying to dose it is really, really tough when you're not knowing what you're doing.
You are not allowed to watch Investigative Discovery Channel anymore.
Exactly. So, what about copper? Do you ever recommend copper?
Only when I have to. In freshwater, I never use it. Never,
okay.
Ever.
And why is that?
Just because you've got to worry about the alkalinity issues. If your alkalinity is too low and you dose a normal dose rate, say you just forget to check the alkalinity and it's at 75. Well, that copper becomes so much more toxic, the same dosage that it would be is if your alkalinity is over 100. Even 150 is really safer.
Interesting. I've never heard that before. So more great information here that every time we do one of these podcasts, we learn something new and interesting. And I will take that and write that down for myself personally. I use copper quite a bit, actually. I'm probably going to quit.
I thought you only used it when you go to Adam's place and he has...
octopus?
No, the...
pregnant seahorses?
Seahorses.
Seahorses, yeah.
That's all he uses it for.
Yeah, I'll treat Adam seahorses with that.
On the next question, how exactly does Malachite
Malachite.
Malachite.
Yeah.
I've always got malachite effect and organism's DNA.
The actual DNA structure, I'm not sure, but it is a mutagen and a teratogen, so it's not safe to use. It was commonly used for years and years and years, but most people are moving away from it, and I believe it'll probably be fairly not legal to possess. in the
What?
near
I have an
future.
old bottle of it. I
So,
love
so
it.
you're saying I should buy some more?
Yeah, you better stock up.
Invest.
Yeah, and this explains why a lot of the tropical fish farmers have anywhere between 3 to 7 fingers per hand.
Don't you mean 12? Or no, that's their children.
That's just one hand.
Okay.
I don't know.
So if someone like me has a bottle of malachite green, what do you recommend? Do you recommend just using it? Any precautions? I'm assuming it's being removed because again, it is a toxic chemical.
I mean,
how
if you're
do
going
we
to
safely use it?
if you see proper PPE, I mean, COVID all the way. Gloves, mask, the whole deal.
So
Hazmat.
you don't want it touching your skin. You don't want it getting into your mouth.
You don't want to snort it.
No,
You don't want to inject it. Okay, we got all those bases covered. The how many times have your fingers been green?
Oh, all the time. And
I know.
I'm nervous as hell right now.
I know. I'm thinking about methane blue and magnet green, and all the times my fingers have been stained for weeks on end.
the meth blue is probably not going to hurt you.
Oh, okay.
Potassium permanganate either. That one's pretty okay. Although those stains last a really long time.
Yes, they do. I came home one time with that stains, and my wife said, "Did you rob a bank?" Or I go, "What do you mean rob a bank?" She goes, "Well, they put those explosive dyes in the bag," and I said, "No, I didn't rob a bank." And then I went and bought a jet ski.
Whoa. They do what in bags now?
If
They
you go to rob,
put dye bags.
yeah. Wait, if you went to rob a bank today because you're wearing a mask and they were open by chance,
And for some reason, they still had cash in 2020.
right? And a lot of times they'll put like a thing in the bag that will explode and it will dye all the money a bright color plus your hands and stuff. And it's been something they've done for years and years and years.
Like a Smurf blue.
a nice Smurf blue, yeah.
Blue or pink. And then they also have it so that once you leave like a certain radius of the bank, it'll explode.
It explodes,
and
yeah.
it renders all the money worthless. And they put it in ATMs too.
I'm learning a lot of stuff here. I didn't have a clue like this. So what you're telling me, and this is hard for me to believe, that the same thing they do in pools, if you take a crap in a pool, it goes blue or pee, right? That they do the same thing to money in banks.
Yeah, pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone now.
I'm just saying the next time that you run the microwave, close the door because I think it's starting to affect your little
Doctor,
brain.
I've consumed too much malachite green. Be careful with those, everybody.
What else you got?
All right. Next question. What diseases are truly affected treating with aquarium salt?
Okay, aquarium salt. It's a wonderful thing. So salt is a good thing for freshwater fish. You don't always have to keep it in there. It's not going to hurt anything. I definitely suggest it on when you first bring fish home or bringing in fish to your store. It's a really good thing. Does a lot of stuff. It can help promote a healthy slime coat. In the nitrogen cycle, your nitrite, especially when you're bringing in new fish, you've got high ammonia in those fish, which is going to turn into nitrite, and the chloride competes for space on the gills with the nitrite. So theoretically, the more salt you have in the water, of course, fish are only your freshwater fish, depending on the species, are going to tolerate so much. The higher your nitrite can be and not be as harmful to the fish because the chloride ions are on the gills instead of the nitrite.
So what are some of the issues that you use that's like a go-to, like I'm seeing symptoms of this disease, I'm going to treat with salt?
Salt will help with ick treatments. Salt can help with actually many protists are affected by salt. Tetrahymena, not so much, but your other guys are going to get knocked off. Chilodonella doesn't like salt very much. Throw salt in for even trematodes, like your gill flukes, Dactylogyrus. Gyrodactylus, high levels of salt you can use to treat those for.
Now, when you're talking about using salt, are you talking like 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons per gallon?
Depends on what you're going to do. If you're doing it to promote your slime coat, it's only going to be a little bit. You know, you're going to want to get your TDS, your total dissolved solids, up to about 1.5 to 3.0 is a nice bath treatment for new fish, even full time for many freshwater fish. And if you're talking treating for diseases, you're going to go to as much as 30 ppt, or to equate that would be like 30% salinity.
Now, I know for years I bought them from you guys before. Do you still sell the TDS meters?
Yes, we do.
If you're a Segrest buyer,
Heads Up stores,
that you can buy the TDS meters. I know it's on the very final few pages where they offer things like rubber bands and bags and stuff. And I got a TDS meter from you guys for years ago, and I still use it today, and I really love it. But I always told too, what is shimmy like on mollies, and why does salt help that?
That can be caused by a number of things. Typically, they're just how to try to explain it.
Nervous?
They're just super stressed. They're just like over stressed, and they kind of shut down. They don't want to eat, and they act weird. But salt really helps that. It's not always the same thing. Sometimes fish are a lot like people. Different diseases can cause similar symptoms. So it's not always. Sometimes it could be a protist. Sometimes it could be Gyrodactylus. Sometimes, ick.
I've noticed a lot of times too that one thing brings on another thing. Do you see that a lot?
Correct. Yes.
It starts out simple, and it just evolves into something greater.
And then Jimmy has flow-blown AIDS, right?
No, I don't have AIDS. You put your pills in with your M&Ms, and you eat your damn M&Ms,
and then you get malachite green in,
and then you're fine,
and you're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stressors equal disease. Really.
My rule of thumb, and I think this is where this question came from, is we've had so many questions over the time we've done the podcast, and they're like, "What would you recommend as a easy recommendation, just to keep healthy your tank?" Salt. If this happens, I'm like, "Well, did you start with salt? If you did the salt and that's not working, then we can move on to other things." And it's always just my flow chart is start with salt. I'm glad to feel validated in that, Jimmy.
Well, I've said it 100 times before. I used to get some goldfish from one of the goldfish people over in the Carolinas, and they had sent me a sheet one time about 11 items about that goldfish get, and I think 9 out of the 11 items that bother goldfish actually are helped or cured by salt. Does that sound about right?
Yes. You can treat a lot of issues with salt,
and salt is cheap, and it should always be in the cupboard if you own an aquarium.
Now, you can go and purchase aquarium salt, or you can get the extra coarse softener salt. Same deal. You just got to make sure that it's extra coarse and not those pellets, because that's got glue and crap in it.
In all honesty, you can even use marine mix. Of course, you're going to use a tiny bit. And if you have soft water fish, you're not going to want to use that on them. But the trace elements, when you're mixing something that low, they're good for your freshwater fish too.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I came down, this is probably 20 years ago, I came down to visit Segrest Farms, and I then went over to 5D, and what interested me is that they had pallets and pallets and pallets of water softener salt, and that's what they were using. And this whole time I was buying the expensive stuff. And if you own a pet store and you want to sell the aquarium salt that's in a box, which costs retail $3-4, you know what? If you want to make some money, go buy yourself a 40-pound bag of the granular salt and bag it in 1-pound bags and sell it for half the price of what your box is. And your $6 bag of salt will net you $40. So it's another money maker for you if you own a pet store.
Cha-ching. So next question is, what is the purpose of raising temp in the tank as it relates to a fish's immune system?
Raising the temperature of a tank, it's going to accelerate metabolism. It's not going to change the immune system a whole lot. What it will do is speed up the life cycle of parasites like ick. You can actually that help as another way to get rid of ick quicker. Because the ick that you see on their side, it is the only protist we can see with our naked eye, which is pretty cool. I mean, as much as I love the fish, I kind of dig the parasites too. I've been doing it for so long, but that's the only protist on the planet that we can see with our naked eye. But those little white spots, you can't treat them with anything. No, the best chemical in the world isn't going to penetrate that. You have to get them in their free swimming stage, and you can get them into that stage quicker by raising the temperature of your tanks.
We've talked over and over about ick on this program and stuff. A lot of questions that are asked, do you ever see ick in fish in the wild?
Not as much, because they aren't stressed because they're in the wild.
And so basically it's just something that's internally in the aquarium trade, is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Fish are just like people in that, there's parasites on our body at all times. It's just whether that load gets high enough to make you sick. That involves gut health. That involves mental health, physical health. For humans. Same thing with the fish. Just all those little things are more stressors. And that's what causes disease to break, typically.
Now, one of the best things that I learned, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but some of my stores taught me that sometimes if you're treating a fish with a certain medicine, if you soak that medicine in, like, say, frozen bloodworms and feed it to them, that once they ingest it, it's just much better than putting it in the water for their bodies to absorb it. Do you guys do a lot of that?
Yes, we feed with medicated feeds, and we make our own medicated feeds. Yeah, much better to get the medication in them with food. Now, unfortunately, when fish are too sick, they're going to lose their appetite or have inappetence, and they won't feed. But if they're well enough to feed, that's always the better way. Metronidazole for Spironucleus or Hexameta for both your discus and your angels, always. Also, your Trophia cichlids. It's a good idea to feed them that because these fish have this in the wild. Spironucleus and stuff like that, straight out of the river, the fish will have them. Absolutely.
All right, doctor, going back to the original question, that it somehow affects the immune system. Again, fish are cold water creatures, so the higher the temperature, the faster their systems metabolize. So
Correct.
If you give them supplements or leave them alone, they're either going to get better with medication and food faster at a higher temperature, or they're going to get worse faster because they're metabolizing, and again, you're not treating it. Is that correct?
Yes, that's one way to look at it.
So essentially, either way, you're increasing the timeline. So if you're treating and you want to see results faster, it's better to raise temperature if it's not just something like ick.
Yeah, it could be.
So if you raise the temperature for ick to try to kill the ick, what temperature is probably the most effective and still safe?
Oh, that's really going to depend on your fish. Your colder water fish aren't going to tolerate more than, it's a tough one. I want to say low 80s at the most, 82.
It's about 82 degrees to help increase the ick cycle.
Yes, increase the life cycle of the.
Unless you have discus, then 105 because they can
130.
They can live in boiling water.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. We keep ours about 87 right now.
And do you have to put a heater in for that, or do you have to put a fan to cool it down? Because I've been in there; it's hot as hell.
Actually, we do have to heat it. Now the heater doesn't run a lot, but we do have to heat it, and it's hot. Those are closed systems. Those pumps produce a lot of heat.
And you have, just for the listeners, you guys have your discus on one separate system, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and the reason I'm taking care of them right now is because for our biosecurity, nobody that works with the discus can work with the other fish.
So you're just the discus guy then?
So explain to me again, why can nobody else work with the discus?
So we don't transfer any diseases from there to any of the other fish.
Okay.
Most of our systems now we've actually segregated by country of origin. So our Florida fish now, Florida, North America, South America, we're not too worried about mixing, but Southeast Asia, we keep those fish in different systems than we keep our South American and our North American fish.
Do you see different parasites coming from different countries? I mean, is there something that could affect one country and not another?
Yes, especially virally, which is a concern throughout, in the industry, industry-wide. Same thing with public aquaria research facilities. Viral emerging diseases, kind of like what we're dealing with for ourselves, honestly.
So I think my fish has a tumor. What can I do to fix it or help him?
You can remove it. You can excise that if you're talented enough. I have assisted in removing a tumor before. It's not something that I would say a novice should tackle, honestly. For one, you need to anesthetize the fish, and that's tricky. Getting that. That's why your anesthetician bill is so much when you have surgery. It's tricky to keep a fish not from stressing and do work like that on it. But there are veterinarians out there that can do it and will do it. Not sure, where that person is, but they can look online, and there are aquatic veterinarians out there. More and more of them, actually.
So when you removed a tumor, helped with removing a tumor, what did you? Because again, you make an incision, you cut out the tumor. What do you sew it up with?
Actually, we just put a little bit of super glue on there, and that seals it up. That's one of the primary things used in fish surgery that people don't realize.
Super glue.
Yep.
Super glue was invented for surgeries, correct? I mean, I think that was the first thing they came up with. Was super glue was used for a lot of surgeries in medical profession.
I mean, you tell us, you were alive then, so.
Oh yeah, God, you are all a-holes today, I tell you.
Love you, buddy. All right, so next one is, how do I safely use anesthesia at home?
That's an open question. I mean, is that on your wife or your kids? Or?
I'm going to go with fish here.
Oh, fish.
We
Okay.
have a fish podcast.
Yes, on fish at home. Probably the safest thing to do is actually Alka-Seltzer tablets. They'll put the CO2 in the water, and that'll knock them for a loop if you need to do something for them. You can also use clove oil. And the AVMA approved way is through tricane methanosulfonate, or MS222. But that's hard to get. You probably have to have a veterinarian to get that.
Why does clove oil work? Because I've heard that, and I've always wondered, how did somebody figure out it works, and what does it do to work? Like, I never understood this.
And then who walked up to the first fish and says, does this smell like chloroform?
I did that to somebody at a bar one time.
Oh man,
clove oil does work. I'm not sure exactly on the mode of action or the mechanism, but it does actually work really well. They use it in Europe. It's used in a lot of scientific research for anesthesia.
Where do you find clove oil? I mean, is it something that you can just find online?
Yes.
Interesting. Does it work on anything other than fish? I mean, can you use it on, let's say you want to give take care of that hernia in your hamster. Will that work on him or not?
I have no idea.
I'm literally pulling up the Google here.
Are you Googling hamster hernias?
And
it work on salt water?
It doesn't work in salt water.
Tell us what you found online.
Yes.
Adam's questions first. I want to know this one. So, does it work in salt water?
Yes.
Okay. So traditionally, clove oil has been used for easing digestive upset, relieving pain, and helping with respiratory conditions. Found that clove oil may have benefits, dental and topical applications for treating infections and fighting cancer. I feel like I just got some how do we put this? hippie hotline when I typed in essential oils.
The kombucha hotline.
Yeah, that's what's happening here. So not a whole lot of extra information on that one.
And a disclaimer on it: the eugenol that's in the clove oil is actually what works. So if you can find that, that's even better. Because you know exactly how much eugenol you're putting in, rather than with clove oil can vary because there's nobody tests clove oil for how much eugenol is in it.
Well, I want to step back into Alka-Seltzer. How that just takes all the CO2 out of
It puts CO2 into the water.
And so a lack of CO2 will knock them out, just like being a lack of oxygen.
Yeah.
So like a pillow over your face.
Wait. So could I use CO2, the Alka-Seltzer tabs for a CO2 supplement in my aquarium?
I don't know. I don't believe so. I don't think it would stay long enough. And the point to use it with the fish is you can get them in there, get them, sedated, and then do whatever you need to do, and then put them right back into their regular water.
Make it easy and quick.
And the other thing I know about Alka-Seltzer is you do not feed it to seagulls.
I feel like there's a story there.
It's not my story, but it's something I read online that some jerks were feeding seagulls Alka-Seltzer.
And they exploded?
That's what it said.
Wouldn't that be messing with the Felony Migratory Bird Act?
I'm sure it would there, Dr. Seuss.
Wait.
Too bad they're destroying it.
Right? Yeah, I did hear about that. They're actually removing the Migratory Bird Act. Yeah.
Really?
That's been talked about anyway. So if that's the case, then feeding seagulls McDonald's French fries, isn't that making them blow up?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Probably
Okay.
worse.
Well, next question. What makes guppies get skinny and not want to eat, but stay active in swimming?
You forgot to feed them?
Worms aside, since I've done deworming already. So this sounds like his particular issue.
Okay, so sometimes the deworming doesn't always be 100%. So sometimes you may have to deworm again. It's really hard to say without performing an examination on a cohort of it. So we could look inside and see. But to do that, then bye fishy. But it could also have a disease which causes granulomas, like mycobacteria, there's numerous other diseases that cause granulomas and can keep the gut from functioning correctly. How
would you treat that?
No treatment for myco. No treatment for most granulomatous disorders, unfortunately.
So Activia yogurt wouldn't work very well then.
No, but probiotics are good for fish gut health.
Yes, exactly. I got a quick question on now we're talking about guppies real quick. The Florida guppies seem to be so much more healthy than the import guppies. How are they keeping them over there that kind of they don't do well here?
That's a mystery that is yet to be solved. A lot of times there may be some leanings towards a viral disease, which is what happened here in Florida back in I forget late 80s. They called it guppy AIDS. Couldn't keep a guppy alive in Florida, and that's actually what collapsed the big Florida industry. Almost all of our guppies came from Florida when I started at Seagrist, but it's rough.
When I first started bringing in guppies, the reason I got into this business is my local place that I purchased my fish were saying, "Hey, can you raise us some guppies?" I go, "Oh, heck yeah!" And that's how I lost my first $18,000. And we've talked about that on this podcast. But at that time, they would get I heard gram positive bacterial infection, I heard gram negative bacterial infections, and nobody really had an answer for any of it, and nothing seemed to work, no matter what you threw at it.
No, and it's leaning to it was more than likely a viral disease.
And so that is something that they have over there, and once they're sent over here, they're stressed out. It pops up, and then bye fishy.
Sometimes, so that all the more importance for your water quality, less stress.
So next question is, in your opinion, what are some ways to prevent common fish illnesses and how to treat them if they pop up. Salt. Sorry, go ahead.
Water quality.
Yeah, you stole my thunder there for sure. Absolutely. Stress. Removing stressors. That's the best thing to do. Optimum water quality, nutrition is going to reduce stress level. It's also going to improve their immune system health. Always use a QT tank. More tanks.
More tanks.
Always. More tanks. Always. It's the safest way to do it. You QT a fish for 3 weeks. If it's going to break with disease, it's going to break with disease, and you're going to know and be able to treat it. For freshwater fish, saltwater dips are very, very, very beneficial. For marine fish, hyposalinity or freshwater dips are very beneficial.
So you do freshwater dips on saltwater fish?
Absolutely. It's very good.
I have not heard that before in all the years I've been in the business.
Well, how would you want to do a salt dip for some fish?
A salt dip, just get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, aerate it really good. On a 5-gallon bucket, I'd say about a cup and a half of salt, and dip them in there. For at that level, you're talking about 3 ppt. They can stay indefinitely. You're always going to want to be watching them, though. I wouldn't just walk away. Especially if you're dipping a species that you've never dipped before. You don't know their tolerance. All fish are different.
And how many times do you have to dip them? Is it a 1 time and go, or is it a 3 times and no?
Depending on what the issue is. For freshwater fish with protus parasites, you're going to want to do multiple dips if that's what you suspect. Or even better, you can get a cheap microscope now. That's quality. That's going to, for under $100. You can have a microscope and do skin scrapings and fin clips and find a lot of stuff. Actually,
I'm suddenly just imagining like a Lipton tea bag just being dunked like 3 times for this flavor, 6 times for that disease. Except there's a fish inside.
A fish inside the tea
Right.
bag. That's, let's not even talk about teabagging. Let's just go on to the next question.
Just go. You already got up the segregation.
Do we have an HR department yet, or is that
Our
something
HR
that we're going to be forced to have?
They quit. We're looking for new ones.
Yeah, we're going to all have a meeting on Monday again.
They heard story time too, and they just gave us immediate resignation. All right. So what are your thoughts on specific tank maintenance to stop or halt any types of poor fish health issues, i.e. stress from water quality, lack of frequent water changes, quarantine time length, types of chemicals that are not used often enough? So I think we've answered the majority of this. So I'm going to pick on the last part of that. What do we not use enough in the industry for overall health in the aquariums?
Probably salt.
Oh, doctor.
I did not steal his thunder that time, but I was
Doc-
thinking salt.
Doctor's too kind. So next question, bloat. Is it a fungal disease or bacteria? I've heard both ways, but don't want to over-medicate for both unless I know for sure.
That's really going to depend, and it could be as simple as a bacterial infection that's causing a fluid buildup in the coelom, body cavity. That's or it could be a worm infection. Fungal. Fungal's a stretch for bloat. I suppose somehow, but I would doubt that.
So you're saying it's either like some sort of like parasitic or viral, essentially, are the two options.
Bacterial, more than likely. Bacterial or parasitic.
Gotcha. So how would you tell, A or B? Is there some telltale signs?
Honestly, no. Not to diagnose that, we'd have to sacrifice the fish.
So you first start treating salt. Good measure.
Absolutely.
Or wash your fish in dial soap, antibacterial.
Oh no, don't do that. That's terrible.
Trying to help.
All right. From the email, what is the weirdest, craziest disease you've ever seen in a fish? I think this is on point right here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's weird or crazy. It's definitely monster level though. They're called acanthocephalans. Their common name is thorny-headed worm. They are probably the creepiest thing I've ever seen in the water. It's it's like one of those miniature bobbit worms from Storytime.
Ooh.
I'm glad you liked that little story there, didn't you?
Oh, I loved it. But
I just pulled up some pictures for Jimmy, and he's not going to sit comfortably for the rest of the show.
Yeah, they're a nice looking worm. Is this something that attaches to the fish?
no, it's inside the fish.
Inside the fish?
Correct.
Kind of reminds me of like a roundworm, and then at the end it has a tongue that sticks out that looks like it's a spike hammer.
Yeah, yes, that's
Oh.
the critter.
We just looked at a zoomed in picture, and it literally looks like a tooth malice. Like, it's incredible.
So what do you use for treatment for that? Just whack the fish over the head with a mallet?
Burn it with
yeah,
fire.
yeah. Unfortunately, you're not treating that.
You just
And this
man.
this is something you've seen free swimming in the water, huh?
Oh no!
Oh,
Inside a fish on a diagnostic.
Okay, I thought like
Okay.
maybe you're scuba diving and these things. You went through a swarm of these things. I'm like,
you know that cold heebie-jeebie feeling?
Yeah,
You just
I
gotta
got it.
shake.
I know, like my ex-wife standing over my shoulder.
That just happened. My butthole's nice and tight. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you for that horrible question, emailer.
Yes.
Wait, wouldn't a Candiru be even worse?
What?
All
It's
right,
that
you got
fish that swims up the urethra.
Well, that's not going to be in fish, hopefully.
Doesn't it attack fish?
Do you ever seen that disease there, doctor?
What, Candiru? It's not a disease. It's a fish.
Right, but you've seen that. Have you ever seen that carried in a fish at Seagrass?
Oh, thorny-headed worm. Yes, I have.
No, the one that Adam mentioned. Say it again, Adam.
The Candiru, that little fish. Does that just go in mammals, or does it attack fish too?
You've seen the shows like on River Monsters where they talk about that fish
I got
swimming
you.
up people's pee holes.
No. Candiru. Yeah, they will do that to cows as well.
So apparently, it's not something that attacks other fish. Then,
Not to my knowledge. I mean, they eat dead fish.
they're just there for us and our Peters.
But they'll swim up your thing. That's not good.
All right, moving on before we've lost all our viewers.
I'm not going to sleep tonight, for God's
Oh my
sakes.
God!
I'm going to put duct tape over my butthole tonight when I go to bed,
Just to be safe.
just to be safe.
Not because it needs waxing, although it does. You should call someone.
How do you
Next
know it
question.
needs waxing?
Next question.
Next question.
This is crossed out. It says fish AIDS crossed out. Disease transmission through pedicures, fish pedicures. So I think this is based off of the Garara rufa, which is commonly known as the pedicure fish. Are there fish diseases transferred through that fish to humans that you've ever heard of?
When they're chewing on your toenails.
There are zoonotic fish diseases. I don't know of the pedicure or Garufa actually having, being diagnosed with a zoonotic disease, but there's always a potential. So I think it's a cool idea. I would never put my feet in their water. Not because of the fish, but because of the hygiene between person to person, personally.
So this is something that some of our listeners probably haven't heard about, but in certain salons in certain states, and
I'm so ready. I've done a ton of research
certain
on this.
countries, you can go into the club and you can pay your $20, whatever, and you
Spa, Jimmy.
Spa. And you drop your stinking toes in the water, and then they eat all the crusties out from between your toes, correct?
So in Asia, they've set up these, they call them pedicure fish spas, right? And this has been done for a long, long time before it has been popularized in Asia, right? And essentially they have a pool with a bunch of these, Garara rufa, and you stick your feet in there and they'll suck on your calluses. They'll eat your dead skin off of your body without harming you is the idea. But the reason that it's not commonly used in the States is because it is a unlicensed spa treatment. They cannot do it because there's no way to sanitize the fish between, just like you were saying, person to person
or the water.
So now I'm saying this because I have done the research. I've made prototypes for these foot baths, and it is quite fun. I have had plenty of Garara rufa in the past, had my own feet nommed on them, and it does work. I can't say it's it's better than getting out a pestle and mortar and grinding down your feet, but it certainly does remove a lot of dead skin. I have injured my feet. Spoiler alert, warning, gross warning. I have actually torn both of my big toenails right off my foot. They were like really grown in, right? So I'm missing toenails on my big toes. So because there's no toenails, it's just skin. It's healthy, but I have a lot of extra flaky, dead skin on those toes.
I just threw up in my mouth.
Hey, we talked about fish swimming up your Peter earlier.
Oh, right? That's right.
So it does work, and I haven't had any issues. But again, if I ever had a sore, never went in the fish bath. It was mine. It was not communal. People did not come over and just like start putting their feet in my shit. It wasn't a line. I just wasn't prepared for someone to sue me for herpetogonosyphilis in their feet.
Right.
So I did the homework, the whole thing. Didn't end up doing it, but it is quite the experience. So if you see a fish spa, don't go in if you have a cut.
I would just skip it entirely and maybe go to Walmart, buy yourself some abrasive stuff, like back in the oil changing section of the car, and just scrub your feet good.
Just scrub them down.
Just scrub them down and not have anybody chew on your toes. What's your next question?
So are there effective additives such as vitamins, etc., that can be safely added to improve overall health and color of fish? If so, can you recommend any specific product and how to use them? Maybe homemade ideas?
Vitamin C, spirulina, beta-glucans. Lots more research to be done too, but all three of those are definitely going to help your fish's gut health. Probiotics, beta-glucans is extremely important, and that's readily available online. Get it into the feed, and then feed your fish with a supplemented feed.
Make them bright and happy, healthy.
Absolutely.
So the other thing on the other side of the coin is that's being a good fish keeper, is trying to keep your fish health, keep your fish bright, use vitamins, good supplements, whatever you want to do with your fish. But on the opposite hand, we hear about these terrible traits of juicing, where people are trying to inject their fish with certain hormones to try to brighten them up. What? Again, Seagrass does not condone that process. This is me just asking outside of this, and do not try juicing your fish at home. Use vitamins, use correct health resources. But what is the process that some of these people overseas have done to try to do that? Do they inject the fish commonly? Do they treat the water?
They actually put it in the feed. They have hormone feeds. You can actually get some of those hormone feeds in Canada. Not that I'm saying to get them.
Those crazy Canadians will sell you anything.
It's all maple syrup.
It's maple syrup.
That's the active ingredient right there.
Maple syrup.
But yeah, it's in my view, I don't think it's good for the fish long term for sure. I mean, fish aren't people, but there's enough similarities and organ structure and stuff like that. I'd say it probably does the same thing to them as it does to us.
So the last part of that is there any homemade supplements that you've heard of people using with success for color enhancement?
Anything, astaxanthins are really good. But
what's that?
It's a carotenoid. It doesn't only help with reds, but it can help with overall colors overall.
Where would one find something like that?
Online.
So that's another treatment, but there's no I can suddenly go get zucchini out of my garden. You give them just the skins, and suddenly that'll give more color.
I suppose so.
You suppose so?
I've never tried that. If you say so.
All right, so no homemade treatments then. Next question is there a full shelf of meds, like a local fish store, that you'd stock up on, and why? Should I buy one of everything and just have them on hand? Since my luck something will pop up in my tank Saturday night after I close and whatnot. I know this is very important when it comes to treatment. So again, what would be that shelf that everybody should have of meds?
And what are the 4 or 5 items that you suggested people have on hand?
Salt, praziquantel, potassium permanganate, copper if you like it and have had experience with it. But those are pretty much the go-tos, really.
And those will cover, a good majority of what you're going to see in the aquarium trade. I mean, there's going to be other things that, of course, are going to show up, but those are the majority of is going to take care of.
Absolutely. And for most medications, like you mentioned, some of the stuff you've had for years and years and years, you do have to take into account that, don't just buy it and then it goes out of date before you can ever use it, because some of those chemicals, especially the more toxic ones, can change over time.
Like Malashy Green, huh?
And they're very expensive.
Absolutely.
So is the Florida Fish Co-op still selling most of that stuff?
They should be. They just moved their physical location, but as far as I know, their website's still up. We just call in our order because we're right down the road, but I believe it is.
And for those of you listening, there's a store called the Florida Fish Co-op in Tampa, Florida, down by is it Gibsonton or Ruskin area?
Now they've moved to Tampa. Yep.
Moved to Tampa, and I've been there several times, and it's one of those deals where you walk into like a feed store, but they've got everything that you could want for aquatics. They've got the large, great big bags. They've got nets. They've got brine shrimp by the 16-ounce cans. They've got frozen food and stuff, and they do have a website. You can go on there and find a lot of that stuff, and they can order it, and they'll send it right out to your door. So it's the Florida Fish Co-op in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah,
So-
I believe that should be ftffacoop.com.
Now, next question. What illnesses are usually shared between fish, snails, and shrimp? What risks are there by introducing snails into established aquarium from another source?
Okay, snails can be a vector for multiple parasitic flatworms. They're typically species specific to that snail. So if you stay away from particular snails, you can stay away from particular diseases. So that's the good thing. They can be an intermediate host is what happens. Those flatworms, they're digenes, so they go through a complex life cycle. So the fish isn't even the definitive host. That's typically a bird.
And that goes, again, that snails are host for. But is there any diseases or illnesses that are transferred between fish, snails, and shrimp that they can all get?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just the flatworms.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to really cause issues. There's also some human diseases that snails can carry, like schistosomiasis. So,
is there any treatment for that other than crushes?
Yeah, yes, there is.
What do you use for that?
For schistosomiasis, chloroquine, actually.
Okay, we're back to. Will that harm any of the inverts?
Well, I wouldn't treat it in a tank. That would be for, if humans got that.
Okay.
All right. Next question. I'm just checking to make sure, because we have a lot of people live, to make sure we didn't miss any of their questions that they got. Oh, there's a lot of people saying that they're grossed out as well.
About what?
Apparently there's a lot of people eating while they're listening live to the podcast.
That's their problem. They should know better.
Yeah, toenails and all. Next question in the list. Is there a medication that can be used weekly to keep up all things in the tank happy and healthy? What's your miracle cure?
No.
Wrong. Salt.
Yeah, less medication is usually better, in all honesty.
So how often would you treat salt? Every water change?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you indefinitely for some fishes. I mean, you can keep mollies, swordtails, the goldfish even up at 5 ppt the whole time you have them. Be 5 parts per thousand of salt.
So, is there risks for planted aquariums using salt in those low amounts just for the slime coat?
Yes, it can. It can be for certain plants, like with certain fish. May not tolerate as much salt. Certain plants are not going to tolerate as much salt either.
Any particular plants you need to be worried about?
Oh.
So you can think about a common ones.
Just the green ones.
Just the green
ones. Isn't the Madagascar ones sensitive to salt?
The
Madagascar lace plants.
The lace. Yeah, I've never put salt in a lace plant tank, but
don't mix with laces. 1 second here. Okay. This was a user that just read the instructions in the Dr. Fish section here. So he's like, get him to go off on the absolute scam that is Melafix, Betafix, and other meme meds. So what is your opinion on such, Melaleuca treatments of like Melafix and others and off brands?
I don't use the Melafix. We do use the Catawba leaves for our shrimp and some of our other dark water fishes. I do find that fish do better when we have them there and not as well when we take them out. No scientific evidence for that, just anecdotal. I can say that people in the public aquaria circles, do like some of those products, but we'd have to use. We couldn't afford to use in any of those specific products in our aquarium systems. It would cost us probably, I don't know, $10,000 to treat a system. So our systems are minimum 3,500 gallons. So
I remember when the Melafix and the Pimafix first came out, and it was going to be the answer to all our prayers. And the first time I used it, in my fish warehouse, somebody came down there and kind of look at me really strange. Said, "Do you have Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest or something? Are you sick?" I go, "No, it's the freaking Pimafix or Melafix, whatever I was using." And I never really saw anything that it did other than foam up the water. So I'm not real sure about it.
Adam firmly believes that it's a miracle cure, but the secret to it, correct me if I'm wrong here, Adam, is that you have to keep the tank dark.
Yes.
You filthy hippie.
I like it.
Why do you like it, Adam? Tell me.
I don't know. It's always worked for the different things that I've used it for. And I've had good stuff.
It smells good. So does a cheeseburger, but that doesn't do a damn good.
Right. You don't huff Melafix, you huff Prime. That is the
thing, yes.
And so what did you use it for, Adam? Because I remember you using it and I thought, God, you're a filthy hippie. But
what? I don't know. I've used it on loaches and stuff and Corridor's catfish, my endlers. Whenever I had a problem, I'd always use that. I never was big on using salt. I would just turn up the temperature, put some Melafix or Pimafix in it, and shut the lights off and call it good. And usually that would fix stuff.
And so by turning off the lights, what did that do?
Well, supposedly the reason why it's in blue bottles is the medicine degrades when it hits the light.
Okay.
So
kind of like hippies.
That's why you have to put it in the blue bottle. But I don't know.
I think the whole thing is that by putting it in a dark aquarium, that when your fish die, you just don't see them.
I'm seeing James's face just smile during this whole conversation.
I have a really good hippie joke that my wife hates.
Oh, let's hear it.
Hit us.
How do you hide money from a hippie? Put it under the soap.
Oh.
Can we get this regulated so that we don't upset like a lot of people?
Well, no, we're
going to talk to our HR department.
We started with certain people, and it's just downhill from there.
Segregating.
Segregation's a good thing in the aquarium. That's all I said, jerk.
All right, next one is, I got a good one. Have you ever seen microbacterium infections spread to humans? And how does the treatment differ between fish and people for that particular microbacterium?
I have met two people in my 30 plus years in the industry, and I did work somewhere before Seegers too, but that have had myco infections. Neither of them got them from the working. They both got them in their home aquarium, actually. One was saltwater involved, one was freshwater involved. But it's not very common whatsoever. Most cases you see in, they also call it fishmonger's disease. So like at the meat markets, when they're slicing fish and cutting fish, if they're not wearing proper PPE, they cut the fish, then they cut themselves, the fish blood and their blood get together and then they get myco. Treatment for humans is multiple courses of antibiotics. Usually it's multiple antibiotics. Treatment for fish, there is none.
So I have two stories here. One, Jimmy and I both had issues where we've ordered in fish from overseas, and we had like a small like hangnail or a cut on our hand, and we're sitting there dumping bags, and then suddenly that gets swollen and infected. I've just been able to put like triple antibiotic on it, and it goes away in like a few days, maybe a week. How about yours, Jimmy?
I ended up going to the doctor here not that long ago because I had a pretty good sized rash that just continually got bigger and bigger. And he really didn't have an answer for me. He gave me some cream and did some voodoo witch doctor stuff on me, and it cleared up after about 2 weeks. But like we talked about on an earlier podcast, when these fish bags, especially the ones that come from overseas, they handle different chemicals, different medicines that they
non-FDA approved,
probably. And you
might be banned on the UN list.
You never know what's coming in on these bags and stuff. And so if you are not using, washing your hands and having a long sleeve shirt on when you're handling this stuff, you don't know. But we've talked about it several times before, but it's just better to be safe than sorry. And if you got cuts in your hands, put on a pair of rubber gloves that are cheap and they're very effective.
The other story is I was at Jimmy's place. We're getting ready for a party and having a good time in the basement. And Jimmy's got, he calls it the underground. It's his, bar at home. And it's filled with rock memorabilia. And part of it is they have this glass, what was it say, Croft to hold like scotch or liquors, beautiful glass skull.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you have matching little skulls that look like shot glasses next to it.
Correct.
And inside of it, because it's decoration, they just got it, set it there because they figured no one would be stupid enough just to open it up and drink it. They put just water in there, right? It's been sitting there since it's been open, hasn't been washed. Just it's nice and pretty.
Oh, it was washed.
Maybe on the outside, but regardless, festering water in this for what, 3 years? A couple years. And so Rob, my friend who doesn't drink. Right. So I'm like, oh, they put water out for people to sober up. How nice. And I just like pop the top, put some in a couple shot glass and swig a couple back.
And what did I tell you?
Hour later.
What did I tell you? I wouldn't drink that.
Yeah, you wouldn't drink that. And they're like, all right, I stopped drinking it. Too late. The damage has been done. In the hour, start getting massive, Hershey squirt symptoms, right? My stomach is reeling in pain. I go home. I start puking. I crap my world apart. And my wife takes me home because I cannot stop. Like, it was a whole, like, imagine Steve-O on Jackass, but just hitting that button every time.
It was terrible for you. The rest of us were laughing.
Right. Just having a good time.
Because we told you what?
Don't drink the bottle.
Don't drink the bottle.
Don't drink the bottle.
What'd you
drank the bottle.
Okay. So it's on you.
It's on me. It's 100%. So I go to the hospital. I'm there for over 2 weeks. And they come in my room with, head to toe PPE, which makes it look like a hazmat suit. They have no idea what's going on. And they talk to some like infectious disease specialist, and they say, well, it's going to take X amount of time to get tested to figure out what type of horrible shit he found in that or anything else where this could have happened. So just treat him with everything. So they decided to IV drip, like, the whole
gamut.
I had every flavor of snow cone liquid dipped into me. And after 2 weeks, I came out and I could finally eat again.
And we had the water tested and they found nothing.
No, they didn't test the water.
Yes, they did. I brought it in.
They brought the bottle in and they said, well, you're already fixed. So, I mean, we'll charge you if you want to test it. And I'm like, well, I don't want to get charged. That's what my insurance is for. So they wouldn't do it without me paying.
So what'd you learn? Don't
drink decorative water bottles.
Correct.
Right. But bacteria infection. So imagine like splashing and get a little in your mouth, be careful. And that's all we're saying.
I'm just saying that a lot of times that I'm drug tested at work, so I just keep extra urine in that bottle in case I need it. So that might have been it.
Oh, to joy. To joy. All right, next question. I'd be curious to talk about his treatments for Marine Brook and Velvet. Everyone has their own cocktail for dealing with that shit. I'm just reading off the thing here. So, what is Marine Brook and Velvet?
Okay, Brooklinella and Velvet, what they call Velvet, which is Amylidinium. Two different protists. They're both one's a dinoflagellate, one's a protist. But Brooklinella, it has a direct life cycle. Freshwater dips and formalin are going to be the primary treatment for that. The copper and malachite green aren't going to do anything to it.
Methylene blue?
Not likely. Methylene blue is a bacteria stat, so it doesn't even kill bacteria. It just keeps them from multiplying and reproducing.
Which is why it's so good with eggs.
Correct. Exactly. But yeah, so your hyposalinity bath, I like to use buffered RO water. So take your RO water, put some either baking soda or soda ash in there to get your pH up to what your fish are in already. You're gonna have to do repetitive baths, probably once every other day, once every day for close to 3 weeks. Formalin you can treat daily if you're doing water changes. If not, you're not doing water changes, you're probably only going to want to do it every other day. But you're still going to want to do at least a 10-20% water change.
Well, there's the secret, since everybody has a different treatment.
That's
so
Brooklinella. Yeah. Amylidinium, they have an indirect life cycle. Copper is always what my go-to for those, 0.15 to 0.2 milligrams per liter. And that's non-chelated copper sulfate. And you're always going to want to measure free copper, not cupramine. That's a totally different thing. It's copper, but it's the way it's in the water is different.
So you have to be half aquarium crazy person and half chemist in order to be in this business.
Yes. And a word to caution: the elasmobranchs, like your cartilaginous fish, sharks, rays, skates, all those guys, they're not going to tolerate copper at all. You can only use that on bony fish.
So you forgot the equation. Also, 100% dreadlocks is required.
Close.
Oh, it's hard to see. It's just curls. Okay.
It's just curls.
Yeah.
It looks
just
pretty.
curls.
We got like a silhouette of you in the camera. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
All right, doctor. Next question. Is it normal for Corydoras to swim all around the tank and not just stay in the bottom?
Absolutely. They're an active little fish.
Well, that was easy.
Exactly.
That was the best one all night. No gross recommendations from Jimmy about tapeworms or fish that swim up my pee hole. What's the difference between
Cory's rock? I like Cory's a lot.
What is the biggest thing you see with Cory's when you start having trouble? I mean, I've seen some, especially like albino Cory's, kind of get that bloody look to them. What's that?
A lot of times, you can fix that with water changes. The Cory's stay on the bottom a lot. Not that they are always on the bottom, as we just alluded to, but your opportunistic parasites are going to lay down there on the bottom of the tank, and because the Cory's are in contact with the bottom so much, they're very likely to pick them up. So siphoning, water quality.
So right back to water quality, good gut health, and you'll have a healthy fish.
What's the difference between ick and how am I supposed to say that, Jimmy? You see the word there, right?
Epistylis?
Good enough. And subsequent treatments.
Epistylis and ick are both protists, but they're different kinds of protists. So your ick is a holotric, and it's a ciliate. Your Epistylis is a stalk protist. So you can treat them both with formalin and salt.
And still have the same results?
Correct. Yeah. Epistylis doesn't really hurt the fish per se, other than it's not a parasite. It is a protist, and it can be a pathogen, but it's not actually a parasite. It's not feeding on the fish. It's just anchoring itself to the fish and feeding off stuff in the water.
So another question that I have is, why do I have so much success treating ick with UV filters and high flow?
Strong enough UV can kill the free swimming stages of ick. It's got to be really strong. So if you've got a really oversized UV on your tank, you can achieve killing ick with UV.
That's essentially what I have. I show two different ones. There's the UV bars are getting more and more popular. They're little bars you can purchase on Amazon, and they're about $10-$12. You can put them in your hang in the back filter, but again, there's no encasing, so you want to put them where there's no exposure from that light to your fish. So again, like the hang in the back filter is the best place I have for it because mine are black and covered. Those really don't do enough treatment. They'll slow down ick, but they don't treat it. Instead, I have like a $35 power head with UV filter or UV sterilizer inside, and that's a much like you said, overpowered UV sterilizer that I use for treatments in case I ever see ick, and that seems to just blow it away. And I use that for different treatments for like clown loaches where I can't use some of the copper treatments.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Contact. It's all about contact time with UV. So even if you don't have say somebody can't afford a really super strong UV, like a UV rated for a 250 gallon on a 25 gallon. If you can't afford that, slow down your water flow, and you'll get more contact time.
Wonderful. So not necessarily power, just the speed. All right. What is your opinion on Prolacticality? Help me, Jimmy.
Prolacticality?
See,
I don't know.
Prophylactic?
Yeah, prophylactic.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
treating new fish that appear healthy. Wouldn't it increase disease resistance?
I would agree with that. I'm not giving antibiotics to any fish that I don't know has a bacterial disease. Preferably, I'm going to have that bacteria maybe not ID'd, but we'll do a susceptibility test so that we can see what drug would actually be preferential. Because all antibiotics aren't going to treat all bacterial infections, and salt would be the only thing that I would say to always treat your new fish with.
All right. Next one is, we already had the difference between ick and not going to try to pronounce that one
Epistylis?
either. Now, what's the difference between ick and velvet?
Ick and velvet actually do have indirect life cycles, so that's the only way they're really they're not related at all, but that's the only way they're really similar, other than they're both protists.
Outside the usual ammonia and nitrite, what are the most critical water parameters to have success in the hobby?
It's really going to depend. Alkalinity is important for your pH. That's your natural buffering capacity. So a lot of times, sometimes people in the industry will say old tank syndrome. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. It might be too old of a term.
Well, explain that to us.
Well, what happens is you use up all your alkalinity. The fish, when they respirate, they're giving off CO2. If you have plants in the tank, they're giving off CO2 during the daytime or during the nighttime. Excuse me, they're giving off oxygen during the day, but they're doing the exact opposite when your lights are off. So you're messing with that carbon cycle that's in the water. You've got your nitrogen cycle and you've got your carbon cycle. Once you tip the scale on that carbon cycle, the CO2 is always eating away at your alkalinity. So if you don't do good water changes with water that has a high enough alkalinity, then it's just going to continue to drop.
I'm just going through here. We got another one. What are the most recommended meds to have on hand? We answered that one. But how about the best fixes for prescription meds? And what's the best way to obtain a prescription medication?
That's going to be to go through an aquatic veterinarian. Even some of your exotic animal vets will work with you. A good way to get some help with that is do Google Scholar searches and be able to take them documentation that says, hey, these people are working with this medication on these fish. Is there any way you can get me a prescription for this?
So not to, because that's the best recommendation, to find a specialist in that. I am in Bunktown, Minnesota. I do not have that luxury. I don't think there's but like one in the cities that is publicly known in the state of Minnesota. So if I'm going to try to get something like I've gotten antibiotics before, like cephalexin, and you cannot get that over the counter, I go to my local bovine veterinarian, tell him that I need it, and he just doesn't care. He's like, okay, sure, here's your script. And I walk out
He
the
goes,
door.
you're the size of a cow. And I think you're just
There
using
you
that as
go.
an excuse.
Right. So if you're in a pinch and you really need it and you bring them the documentation and you say, pretty please, other vets can get that for you as well.
Absolutely. Doctors and veterinarians can use medications for off-label use. Not all medications, but many medications, at their leisure.
All right. 2 more questions, and then we'll have to call her and do another episode in the future. Again,
I want you to ask the one from Scrapjaw there.
that's what I'm going to do. I've got a beta that suffers from fin rot on the regular. I treat him. He heals up over a period of time, and then inevitably returns to melting. My water parameters stay relatively stable. Is he just old, or is there no point of return when a fish has been sick so long, often, that they can no longer recover well enough?
It could be a little bit of both, honestly. Most just regular fancy male betta, if you get 5 to 7 years out of them, that's a really long lifespan for those guys.
5 to 7 years. Oh, you got a good beta life cycle there, buddy. I like 3 to 5. I've had luck with.
You put them in water?
Clearly, not enough. Not enough. Whew. I feel bad all of a sudden. Like the first time I was like, I had a goldfish for 2 years. Well, they last 45. I'm doing it wrong, Mom.
Yeah, don't drink the water.
Also, another thing to look at is what's in the aquarium with them. Do you have a lot of the fake plastic plants that are real sharp? I see a lot of beta fins get shredded when there's another fish that's trying to run away from. The fin gets caught. Make sure that you're not having a lot of even some driftwood. They can have fine points on driftwood, and they can shred their fins, and that can be a recurring problem. So look at the decor that you have and see if it's getting caught somewhere.
Yeah, even if you have a fin nipper in the tank with them, like a tiger barb or another betta, even a female betta will nip them at them.
Otherwise, watch behavior. Again, I just got a bunch of clown loaches from a buddy because he had them with his big discus tank, and clown loaches are real docile. But apparently, he was watching the behavior nip 1 or 2 of them, so they had to go. That's his prize discus. All right, can larger sharks like zebra, nurse, and blacktip sharks get ick or some form of ick?
Typically, you don't see ick involved with your elasmobranchs.
The larger sharks, like the zebra nurse or blacktip?
Just
Yeah.
bala sharks. Bala sharks are totally vulnerable.
Bala sharks, albino sharks, anything that's albino, be it albino tiger barbs, albino rainbow sharks. The albinos are genetically some of the weakest, just like the black moor goldfish is genetically
We're
the
joking
weakest.
because those aren't actual saltwater sharks. We're just naming
I'm just
freshwater
I'm just naming
species
stuff just to throw people off.
to make you feel like you're a shark enthusiast.
Ah, shut up.
Well, Dr. Fish, it has been a pleasure. Hopefully this sends your career off. Once Dr. Phil came on Oprah, now he has his own show. I'm just saying this could happen, right?
Yeah.
The beginning of Dr. Fish has started here, and don't forget about us.
You got it.
I think he just peed himself.
Well, guys, remember, Mondays, 7 o'clock, certainly join us. We want to do this Dr. Fish segment on a regular basis. So this is, again, episode 1 of Dr. Fish. You can go to aquariumguyspodcast.com, at the bottom of the website. You can email us, call us, text us, go on Discord, put it on the board.
Smoke signals.
Send us smoke signals, fart in Jimmy's direction generally with a question. And we will save it for the next episode of Dr. Fish. Not to mention, we'll still answer a few in between time.
And
But-
all complaints are to go to Rob's.
Rob's Olson.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
Exactly.
We need new HR. Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast. Please go to your favorite place where podcasts are found, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever they can be found. Like, subscribe, and make sure you get push notifications directly to your phone so you don't miss great content like this.
I never knew that a Minnesota accent could be so sexy until I heard Adam's voice.
Go f*** yourself, don't you know?
That's my boy. Don't you know?